Welcome to the Program Renewal webinar for school year 2018-19. We're excited that so many of you can join us this afternoon. I'm Cheryl Johnson, the Director of the Child Nutrition and Wellness Team, and with me Kelly Cheney, Assistant Director, and we have Dessa Gifford and Arlene Anderson, who will be helping answer questions as you type those in the chat box. We have put everyone on mute so that we don't have so much of that background noise. You can ask questions in the chat box and we'll respond to those as we go along, but at the end of the webinar we will open up the microphones so that you can also ask questions that way if you would prefer, rather than typing them in. Well, we want to start by just thanking everyone for the great job and all the good work that happened in this past school year that is now coming to an end. We have had some great successes in feeding more kids, especially with breakfast. We've got summer feeding programs and program renewal going on, getting those set up, and it's looking to be a great summer for Kansas kids as well. So thanks to everyone for all of your great work. Yesterday, we sent out the program renewal webinar program renewal memo for school year 18-19, and we do have that up on the screen for you, and I'm going to be reviewing that in just a second. But let's start with what our objectives are for today. We are going to discuss recent USDA guidance and flexibilities, highlight information in that 2019 program renewal memo. We will review program renewal documents and detailed changes to the sponsor and site applications and answer your questions. Let's start then with some of the new and recent guidance from USDA. They did publish an interim final rule on school meal flexibilities. And what this interim final rule says is that the flexibilities that were available to you all for school year 17-18 continue into school year 2018-19. There was a 60-day comment period that closed January 29th in regard to the interim final rule, and USDA received 86,406 comments, and they are still sifting through those. But their plan is to have a final rule published in fall of 2018. And then hopefully some of these flexibilities that you are currently getting to request via waiver may then become law. We're not sure what that will be exactly, but they have said we're going to know that early fall or in fall 2018, and then any of those changes would not go into effect until school year 2019-20. So they're trying to give you time to prepare in advance for that next school year. So we will all wait and see what that says, but for now, we do have the flexibilities that will continue. So the whole grain rich exemption request is available on our website under Guidance, Menu Planning, and Production Records. If you had had an exemption approved in the past, those can continue going forward. You don't need to reapply again. Just remember that you need to, at a minimum, meet the 50% whole grain rich requirement. So you can't have exemptions for all whole grain, from all whole grain products. So please keep that in mind. In regard to sodium limits, you can continue to meet sodium target 1, and Kansas sponsors are doing that and have been for some time. And then low-fat flavored milk. We have an exemption request for that available also under the guidance section in Can-Eat under Menu Planning and Production Records. There is wording in the interim final rule that the sponsor still has to demonstrate hardship by documenting a reduction in student milk consumption or an increase in school milk waste. Well, I know that's difficult to do. We've heard that. but maybe it could be something as simple as surveying your students and seeing how many might have purchased a reimbursable meal if they could have had 1% flavored milk available. Maybe it could be something if you did a plate waste and if you see that a lot of the milk is being thrown away, and write that as a part of your exemption request. But it is a possibility in Kansas to apply for this exemption, and we sure wanted to let you know about it. Actually, no one in Kansas has applied for this. They didn't last year, but it is available as an option for you all. So now let's talk about a little bit of the new recent USDA guidance. They have published a new verification toolkit. And this is out on the Food Nutrition Service USDA website, available. We will be highlighting materials from this in verification training that will be held in September, face-to-face, and also via webinar. But know that USDA has done a lot of research and worked with some behavioral scientists to rewrite the verification template letters. And one of those we then will be using as a part of program renewal, and Kelly will talk about that later. But they also have some great materials on best practices for helping families easily respond to verification. So know that's out there, and if you would have time, you may want to take a look at that. There's also a new policy memo, CACFP 09-2018, grain requirements in the Child and Adult Care Food Program, question and answers. If you are a school that is not having commingled pre-K students and you are serving the CACFP meal pattern to those pre-K kids, it would be important for you to look at this policy memo. CACFP now has 6 ways to determine if a grain is whole grain rich. I know USDA was trying to make this simpler for our CACFP program operators, but in fact it seems to have made it a bit more complicated, and so there are a lot of questions. And there will be a lot of training opportunities available later this summer and next fall for you if you are implementing the CACFP meal pattern. Know too that we have a frequently asked question resource available on the CanEat website with Q&As about the Child and Adult Care Food Program, including if you do commingle students. I would encourage you to use that resource. Okay, paid lunch equity guidance. This was finally out, not just about, a month ago. We've been waiting on paid lunch equity guidance and the PLE tool, and then we found out that there was going to be some flexibility. So let's talk about what that is. Sponsors with a positive or zero balance in the nonprofit food service account as of January 31st, 2018 are exempt from PLE requirements for school year 2018-19 and not required to complete the PLE tool or meet the requirements. If you are one of those sponsors, you can just indicate on the sponsor application in plan claim, there's a box you can check that you have chosen this exemption. And so it's as simple as that. There is no form to fill out, nothing is required other than a checkbox. Now, if you still would like to raise prices, you think that's needed for the benefit of your fund balance, you can do that. If you want to complete the tool, we actually encourage you to complete it and at least determine your unrounded or your weighted average price for this coming year, because we're not sure what you're going to have to do next year. And if you have that weighted average price figured and indicated, then that will make it easier for you next program year if in fact we would go back to having the PLE requirements. We will talk about this more when we get to that section of the sponsor application. I know it might seem a little confusing, but I think it will be easier once you actually see what that question is on the sponsor application. So we will wait and talk more about that then. The Wellness Impact Tool, quick reference, is available for you in CanClaim, but I just wanted to make sure you knew that we were having some technical difficulties with the plan, and we're trying to make a bit of an enhancement to it, so it is not available, or it wasn't earlier today. So know that if you're looking for the Wellness Impact Tool to complete that it might be a day or two before it is back up. We have enhanced the Wellness Impact Tool so that you can include your committee chair, their name, their email and phone number, and also designate a co-chair. Those were things that you all asked us as we were out in wellness workshops the past year. So we have updated the tool to do that for you all. All right, let's look just a little bit at the program renewal memo. I'm not going to just read it to you or anything like that. I just want to highlight some of the important parts. Please do remember that you should read it carefully and thoroughly, and contact your child nutrition consultant or the Topeka office if you have any questions after you do read it. As far as program renewal documents, right up here at the top, this year all program renewal forms are available in CanClaim under the checklist tab. So they're going to be right there, ready in CanClaim for you to upload. We think this is going to make that process simpler for you. That being said, though, they will no longer be in food service fax, because we do not want to have the same form in multiple locations, and then if we make a correction on one, sometimes you forget where all those forms are, and it can lead to inconsistencies. So this is where they will live. The form numbers are being taken off because they're no longer corresponding to a chapter in food service fax. So I think we're all going to have to practice not calling them by like 7F or 3E, but what the actual name of the form is. The other exciting news I think that most of you will appreciate is a new program agreement or addendum is not required for this coming program year. What we do need you to do is upload the signed copy of your 2018 program agreement, last year's, on the checklist tab in CanClaim. If you can't find yours, we did scan all of those signed copies in, so please contact your consultant or the Topeka office and we can help you get that uploaded if you can't find your signed copies. But you really should have that signed copy in your file and ready for any kind of an audit or an administrative review. Let's look then, the next item in the memo, CanClaim forms. Do remember that you have to go into program year 2018 to complete the monthly financial reports, which roll up into the annual financial report. And this is also where you're going to find the Wellness Impact Tool to complete that. Then we go into program year 2019, and you do need to complete the sponsor application first when you get in there, and then at least one site application, and save it even with errors, because until you do those things, you're not going to see the forms that you need on the checklist tab. That checklist tab will not appear until you have completed the sponsor application and at least get one site entered. So don't think that there is a glitch or something. I mean, if you don't see the checklist tab just right away. Okay, let's go on down here a little bit. Let me move it on the screen, hopefully. As far as uploads, the good news is the Edge browser is able to You can upload from that now. In fact, KSDE folks here think that's the browser of choice. We had told you in the past not to use Safari or Edge, but now the only browser that does seem to be a problem for uploads is Safari. Be sure to clear your cache too. Delete that browsing history prior to trying to upload documents. New sites. I did want to make sure you see this. If you do have a new site, there is the new site form available in CAN-EAT under Administration Program Renewal. So you would complete that and scan and email it to Kelly Cheney with the carbon copy to your area child nutrition consultant. That form is not in CAN-CLAIM. So I just wanted to make sure we pointed out. The unpaid meal charge policy, if it is going to remain the same from last year, then all you have to do is upload whatever current policy you have onto that checklist tab. You do not need to upload board minutes unless the policy is changed. And if you are changing your policy and it goes to the board, then of course you would also need to upload those board minutes. On reimbursement and adult meal prices, we had a question about this after the webinar yesterday, so I sure want to let you know that the sponsor application seems to be pulling through the prices that you had from last year. So know that those are only those old prices and those can be changed and should be changed. Don't think that we have tried to put in some prices in there that we think you should be using. So that can be a little confusing where it is pulling those forward. The reimbursement rates probably aren't going to be available from USDA until early July. That's when they usually publish those. So the estimated free and reimbursement rate and then the recommended minimum adult meal charge, those were calculated based upon the average percent of increase in reimbursement rates over the last 3 years. So we have just tried to estimate for you what you should charge as an adult meal charge to meet the federal requirements. The non-English language versions of all the forms will be posted by June 1st. We're working on getting those translations available. The main one where we've changed the verification letter, we've got to determine what we need to do to get that translated. You will see that the application for households has not changed other than dates, so we can get that done pretty quickly, but we do need just a little bit of time to get everything ready in Spanish. Income eligibility guidelines, that chart came out last week. It is in the checklist tab in CAN-CLAIM, and remember it's for sponsor use only. It should be provided to each of the determining officials, but it is not to be distributed to all school patrons. If you are using an online application for child nutrition program benefits, make sure that you get that request into KSDE. We'd like to have the request by June 1st, and Kelly will talk more about that in just a second. Direct certification, we hope to have the file upload from the Department of Children and Families and the first matches done by July 9th. Since the 4th of July holiday is in the middle of the week, we are not sure when the Department of Children and Families will be able to get that file to us. We're hoping it might be as soon as the 6th, but we didn't want to guarantee that, so we are almost positive we can have it by the 9th, unless something happens on their end. We can sure do it on our end. Procurement plan. This is the next change that I do want to go over with you. And so, Kelly, can you bring up the new prototype? We have heard over and over as we've been out this year, the consultants and Kelly and I with calls that probably the biggest challenge for sponsors seems to be the Buy American provision, just getting that implemented. So we are trying to help, and you can all let us know if you think this is a help or not, because this is a prototype. Remember, the procurement plan that we provide on the checklist tab in CanClaim is a prototype. You can have your own procurement plan. We are just trying to help you meet all of the federal requirements that are listed there in 2 CFR 200 and then the 7 CFR 210s for our programs. We have had this reviewed by USDA, and they have given us some suggestions also that we've incorporated. So this does look different than last year's prototype. Some of the main differences are we've added more citations so that if you do need to visit with your administrators or industry, you have where all of the requirements are in the federal law. And then in Section B Procurement Plan, in the chart in 3, we have further defined the procurement methods in the drop-down boxes. We've also added the market basket column, which that was a new policy memo that came out this spring, where you do have to indicate what % of items you're using for financial analysis, and if you're going to allow additional items to be added to a contract, what % would be allowed. So these were suggestions by USDA. They also wanted us to have you indicate what purchasing cooperative you're a part of. And so that also was changed just a little bit. Then they recommended that we go in order of kind of the level, the dollar amount of purchasing. So it was revised. So Section C is micro purchases. And remember, you know, equitably distributed is so important if you're using that micro purchase method. And there's a comment box in order to describe how you are going to equitably distribute your purchases. Section D are your small or informal purchases. And then Section E, your formal procurements. There have been some minor tweaks in language here, but mostly just the changes were in regard to adding citations from the federal law. The written standard of conduct, again, has the citations listed, so you know exactly what has to be in a written standard of conduct. But Appendix A is what we've added to try to be of assistance with Buy American documentation if, in fact, you would need to have limited exemptions. So as you all know, we are to purchase American products, and using products that aren't American should be a last resort. There are 2 exceptions, and those are listed here. And if you are going to use an exception, the sponsor is the final authority for approving an exception. It isn't the state agency, it isn't USDA. You all have to approve that, and you must keep the justification and documentation of that justification on file. What we've tried to do is give you a couple examples of justifications that, you know, might be possible, just to help you with wording or what we might be looking for on review. So let's look at the first one. Bananas and pineapple, as you all know, aren't produced in large amounts in the United States or territories. So in this example, I have said that from August 15th of 17th to May 24th of this year, bananas and pineapple, the only country I can find them from, or where I'm buying, is Costa Rica, because domestic banana and pineapple are not available. And I've reviewed the American Marketing Service list for the past year. I've contacted 3 suppliers. I can't find any American pineapple and bananas. So I then say students still request bananas and pineapple, so we'll still serve, but we'll limit that to 1 time per week for each of those. So I'm saying that, you know, I'm not going to serve them every day, but since it's for student acceptance, I'm going to serve them one time a week, and I'm going to use domestic fruits more often. Frozen broccoli, we sometimes hear is not available, or if it is domestic, it is higher. So in this justification, domestic frozen broccoli is available, but is 3 times the cost of non-domestic broccoli, as evidenced by contacting 3 suppliers. It's observed that broccoli is well accepted and consumed by students as compared to other dark green vegetables, and will be reduced to serve once per month. So that's my justification. I'm going to not serve it as often, but it's so expensive from a domestic source that I will buy it from a non-domestic one time a month and serve it. Now, yesterday we had somebody ask, well, you know, we submit this at the beginning of the program year, and it looks like this is a form that we would just need to fill in throughout the year. And yes, you would not have to have this all filled in with program renewal. In fact, you could just copy the form and keep that in a file or a notebook with your documentation. It doesn't have to be uploaded with your purchasing plan. Or you can just keep this in CAN-CLAIM and add to it as you go along. You would have to resave it, though, under the other forms, that other forms tab, because once you have submitted one procurement plan, it's not going to let you upload on top of that, I do not believe at this point. And we can look into that and see if we can make that happen. But it isn't happening that way right now. But it's really just a prototype of an example of a form that you could do and keep along with your documentation for your exceptions. All right, going back, Kelly, can you go back? I think there's only a couple other things from the program renewal, and then we'll get into what new CAN-CLAIM looks like. I'll scroll back here. I wanted to just make sure you all knew, if you use the Excel application for Child Nutrition Program benefits, that will not be available on the checklist tab in CAN-CLAIM until July 1st. And remember, that can't be just out there where patrons can get it. I mean, you have to be the one using that to make your eligibility determination. If you are interested in applying for the community eligibility provision, that application has to be turned in and filled in CAN-CLAIM by June 30th. USDA is not extending the date this year. The other thing I sure wanted to let y'all know is that there is not going to be, at least last word I had is, there is not going to be a revision to the eligibility manual for this coming school year. The 2017 eligibility manual is going to remain in effect, which that should be good news to everyone, because that's giving you a little sneak peek to Kelly's part. We haven't had to make very many changes. So hopefully that will be encouraging to all of you. So Kelly.
Okay, we're going to switch things around for you, keep you awake this afternoon here. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the program renewal documents, and then we'll review the changes to the sponsor and the site application, which were not very many changes, so good news on that front. I do want to start out with just a few reminders. You all remember that last August we rolled out the new and improved CAN-CLAIM system, and with with that rollout, CanClaim became accessible through the Common Authentication System. And there is adequate capacity for multiple staff members within your school or your school district to have access to CanClaim. So what I'm trying to say is there's no need to share your login credentials and your username and passwords. So anyway, as an authorized representative, you do have the ability to approve additional users for the CanClaim system. We call those designated users. So please do keep that in mind. I'll talk a little bit more about the quick reference here for accessing CanClaim. But one of the improvements with the CanClaim system is that in the old CanClaim system, you had, if you forgot your password, you had to call our office and we'd have to reset your password manually. Now all you have to do if you forget your password is click on the Forgot Your Password button and under the login button on the registration page, and your password can be reset that way. As a reminder, we know that there are changes in authorized representatives. Those changes are occurring now and will continue to occur throughout the school year, but the new authorized representative must register to access CanClaim. Again, we've got the capability for multiple folks to have access to CanClaim. And as you all know, communication is key, and we communicate primarily by electronic means. And Cheryl sends out a monthly school nutrition programs update to the authorized representative and the food service director, and that information is pulled from the sponsor application, and that's typically done after we have all the program renewals approved. And so it's really important to keep that sponsor application updated, and so if we need to refresh that listserv, we can do so accordingly so that all authorized representatives and food service directors can get the monthly update. Mr. Dennis also sends the monthly school nutrition programs update to the board clerk and the superintendent's listserv as well. So those folks also receive the updates with important information. And the quick reference that I just spoke of can be found on, of course, on the school nutrition programs homepage underneath guidance and CanClaim quick references. So make sure if you have any new folks or especially new authorized representative and they're kind of struggling to figure things out, refer them to the quick reference or call our office and we can help you navigate that process. All right, so the checklist and instructions for program renewal. We have this pulled up on the slide, or on the screen, I should say, and this is also available on the program renewal webpage. I really like this because this truly is a checklist and instructions combined. It really helps you, it helps provide important information on the required forms that are available on the CanClaim checklist tab, and then you of course then can use it as a checklist. Okay, I've got this, 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 and this done. So just know that it's out there. We recommend you use it. It's a great resource. So as Cheryl mentioned before, the program renewal documents are now housed in CanClaim on the checklist tab, and they're all there available for you to download to your computers, complete, and then upload. And one of the things I want to remind you about that Cheryl shared earlier is that, and this will make a little sense, this will make more sense as once I actually get into the checklist tab, but the sponsor applications and site application and purchasing plans are all indicated as required documents, and you'll see that when you log in and you open up and you click on the checklist tab. And what Cheryl had mentioned earlier is that you have to get into the sponsor application and then the site application for the indicator that it's a required form to actually show up. So the forms are there available for you to download and complete, but if you're using that checklist tab as truly a checklist tab and you're going to rely identify on that required indicator, the forms that will indicate as being required, that will change as you're going through the process and depending on how you're answering the questions. So all of these forms, these 7 forms, are all available on the checklist tab. And again, reminder, we removed the form numbers on these. We now just refer to them as titles. I do want to point out the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th item on this slide, confirm your eligibility for free and reduced price meals. We did change that and are using the same title as USDA has used in their verification toolkit. This was formerly the notification selection for verification. There we go. So this is just a screenshot of the checklist tab, and I am now going to take you into CanClaim here. So bear with me for just a few minutes, and there we go. I'm gonna just minimize this just a smidge. So this is actually in our stage, in CanClaim stage, and so this is not actually in production. And I went in and kind of started answering some questions and saving the forms so that you can see that the required documents are being indicated on the checklist tab. So you'll see at the very top, the checklist tab is your first tab on the sponsor summary, but you'll see sponsor application, site application, and your frontline training. Those are all defaulted to required. And so when you log in for the first time, items 1 through 21 aren't going to be indicated as being required yet. You have to get into the sponsor application and start working on it and save it, and then that's when the required forms indicator, that box with the red check mark, that's when it will start showing up. And one of the things that I do want to point out is that you'll see I've scrolled all the way down to the screen on the checklist tab. When you have got all the required forms and the applications completed, you will see the option to submit for approval. And you can see that option is not here on the bottom of the screen because we haven't uploaded everything and we haven't completed the sponsor applications. But just remember, that's how you can click on that option when it shows up. Okay, so if it's not showing up, you haven't uploaded all the forms and answered all the questions on the sponsor and the site application that are being required. As Cheryl mentioned, we moved the income eligibility guidelines. This is item number 21 onto the checklist tab. They're no longer on CanEat on the Renewal webpage. And we also have on the offline forms as needed, that miscellaneous upload line number 29, when Cheryl was talking about the Buy American or updating your procurement plan, this would be the line that you could upload the updated document to. I'd also like to point out as well that we have on line 24, the vended meal contract. That is one of the changes for this school year. In previous school years, we've had a sponsor-to-sponsor contract and we've had a vended meals contract. We have combined those two documents into one, and we are now using this vended meals contract prototype, and I want to emphasize prototype, for all of our programs and for all meal purchasing scenarios. So whether you're a private school and you're purchasing from a school district, you'll use this vended meals contract. Or if you're a private school and you're purchasing, say, from a hospital or a nursing home, you'll use this vended meals contract. It does appear to be a lengthy document when you first open it up, but there actually are not a lot of required fields that do have to be filled out on this. So it can look a little intimidating, but we've really tried to cover our bases, and also to remember that this is for school nutrition program, CACFP, and summer food service program. And you'll see on line number 25, we have sponsor-to-sponsor contract, but it says use the vended meals contract. So you could actually upload in, if you are purchasing from another child nutrition program sponsor, you could upload it here in line 25, or if you are purchasing from a hospital or a nursing home or some other vendor, you can upload it in 24. But what I want you to know is it's the same prototype agreement that you'll use for either one of those situations. And for those sponsors that contract with food service management companies, your consultant cannot approve your program renewal documents until we have a signed agreement from the district or a renewal addendum with supporting board minutes from the district. So just as an FYI on that one. All right, so let's go on, and this is, I'm sure I've timed out, and we're going to move on to the sponsor and the site application. I'm just going to quickly highlight the changes. So let's see, I'm pretty sure that it is, yep, so I'm going to just bear with me for just a few seconds. We have great security measures here with CanClaim, so it's working the way it should after a certain period of inactivity. Okay, so we're going to start out with the sponsor application. I've already updated a little bit of information. Again, this is in stage, so this is not for real. This is just kind of for practice. So the highlights that we have with the sponsor application, and there aren't many, but the first area that I want to highlight, and Cheryl has already spoken to this, is in the paid lunch equity section. Let's see. Where are we at? Paid lunch equity. Okay, so line number 56, it says, does the sponsor qualify for and wish to utilize the PLE exemption due to a positive or zero balance in the food service fund as of January 31st, 2018? So you can mark yes to this if you do qualify for the exemption. If you do not, you would mark no. What I want you to know here, and I think Cheryl's going to share some additional information about this, but what I want you to know is even if you do mark yes on field number 56 that you're going to utilize the exemption, field number 57 will show up as an error if you don't indicate a meal price there. It's actually a warning. You can proceed, but just know that it's going to show up as a warning, so don't get alarmed and think that there's a problem or that CanClaim isn't working correctly. So just know that. And Cheryl, you wanted to share a little bit, I think, about this
yes,
section.
after we had some questions yesterday, you're getting a warning there on 57 because it's not going to be required. You can go ahead and you don't have to do it. We would just recommend you do that because we don't know what's going to happen next year, and it would make it harder for you for next year's program renewal if you did in fact have to do the PLE tool and you didn't have the required weighted unrounded average paid lunch price already figured from this past year. The other thing is, if you want to utilize the exemption, and really all public schools in Kansas have to keep a zero or positive balance at all times. So if you're a public school, you really can mark yes. But if you want to go ahead and say, let's raise your meal prices like a nickel, maybe it wouldn't have met the whole amount of what the PLE tool would have told you, you would then still mark yes that you qualify for the exemption, if that makes sense. Because if you went ahead and did the PLE tool and you're not raising the price as much as it said, you would still need to mark that you're wanting that exemption on line 56. Now, if you go ahead and you think, oh, I need some more revenue coming into my food service fund, and so you do the PLE tool and you decide to raise your prices so it's the average of 10 cents per paid meal price, and that's what the tool said you needed to do, then you would mark no, because you don't wish to utilize the exemption. Again, there's no form. All you have to do is do this check mark. if, let's say, you're a private school and you did have a negative balance as of January 31st, 2018, then you're going to say, no, I don't qualify, and there are going to be additional questions then that pop up here that you'll need to complete that show the same kind of information about PLE as we had last year during program renewal.
Yeah, they're just hidden now, so if you mark no and then you exit out, you save and you exit out, then it'll tell you there's errors, and then when you go back into the sponsor application, that's when those questions will show up. So they don't, just because you mark no, it's not going to automatically populate. You have to exit out and then come back in.
And we have a question about where can you find the balance in the food service fund. Well, you do a monthly financial report, and so you should have January's done, and you can just go back and look at that, or you can talk with your person at your school that keeps track of the budget, and they would be able to tell you as well. That's why it's really important to get those monthly financial reports done each month and, keep up with that, because it does make it so much simpler for you than for the annual financial report come the end of the school year. I hope that answered your question. As far as when the sponsor and site applications are open and ready, they're ready now. They were ready as of yesterday morning. So you can be looking at them right now from your computers as we talk through this if you want to.
Yeah, and I think that might have confused a few people because I said I was in stage, and I'm in stage because I don't want to actually be making any changes to any sponsor's site and sponsor application in production.
That's right. Okay, thanks,
All
Kelly.
right. Okay, so we're going to move on down to the mill purchasing and procurement section. And you can see that we have questions 70, 74, and 77. Those actually, depending on how you answer these questions, if you answer yes to any of these questions, there are additional questions that will show up that you'll be required to answer. And with question 77 and, number 70, number 74, and number 77, we just kind of refined the wording on those questions a little bit. And one of the new questions that we added to this section is question number 80. Does this sponsor participate in a cooperative purchasing agreement? You'll answer yes or no. And then we ask you, if you do participate, what are those types of agreements that you're participating in? Is it for child nutrition program sponsors only? We have several of those here in the state that we're aware of. Is it by use of an agent or agents, or is it through third-party entities? And I believe that we have probably all of those scenarios here in Kansas. And then we also added question number 82. Are you currently purchasing any local products in your school nutrition program? And if you are, we would ask that you would enter in the box on field number 83 which products you are purchasing. We'll move down to the wellness policy section, and what changed in this section is that the wellness policy chair and contact information has been removed from this section and put in the wellness impact tool. It looks a little bit shorter, and just as a reminder, you are still required to update the impact tool in the previous year, and you will get an error message even if you mark yes that it's been updated, but you didn't actually update it. The sponsor application talks to the previous year and knows if you've completed the wellness impact tool in the prior year or not, or updated it, I should say. And those are all the changes on the sponsor application, so not too many. And there's just one small change that we've made to the site application, and I'm going to just go there real quick and I will show you that, and then we'll finish talking about some of the forms. On the site application, and I went ahead and I indicated that this particular site has pre-K students enrolled at the school. And when you mark that there are pre-K students, enrolled at the site. So this is line number 19. You can see I have that marked. Question number 20 and 21 will pop up, and then you're asked if they are commingled in the same service area at breakfast and commingled in the same service area at lunch, and you'll need to mark yes or no to those questions. And those were the only changes, besides just kind of some refining of wording on the site application that we have. So this part was pretty short and sweet. So I'm going to move back over to the slides and make those a little bit larger here. And we will pick up with the letter to household. And these are mostly just reminders because, as Cheryl indicated, besides changing the dates, and I think we added email information to quite a few of the forms, there weren't any changes to these. But it's important to remember that your revisions to the letter to the household, that those revisions do have to be approved by KSDE, and that approval process is by uploading to the checklist tab in CanClaim, and that the letter to the household does have to be distributed to all households. And the letter is really important because it does inform families which child nutrition programs may be available at a free or reduced price. It's very different for each district. Some districts offer after-school snack. Some our private schools may or may not offer breakfast. So it's a very important letter because it is informing households how to access our child nutrition programs that are being operated within your districts or your schools. You also must explain how to obtain and submit a paper application packet, and this can be done by including a telephone number on a form to return requesting that an application be sent to the household. All right. And then that household application packet for free and reduced price meals. All sponsors must be able to provide households with a paper application packet that includes the application and instructions. So if the sponsor only uses paper applications, the letter to the households must be included with the application packet. However, if the sponsor uses a computer or web-based system as one of their application processes, the letter to household must inform the household how to access the system to apply for benefits. Some more reminders. Sponsors must not require households to complete an application or complete a separate application for each student enrolled at a different attendance center, nor should sponsors be offering any type of incentive, such as cash or a gift, to apply for child nutrition program benefits. And the translated documents will be available in Spanish after June 1st. If you have the need for for the application packet to be translated in something other than Spanish, then you can go to the USDA website, and you can access that website through the caneat.org under the school nutrition programs menu and foreign language translations. There are a lot of translated documents on the USDA website. We of course encourage you, since you're probably not going to be familiar with all of the languages, to print the English version of the application so that you understand and know if the questions or the fields are being answered appropriately and completely. Consent for disclosure, this is also available on the checklist tab in CanClaim, and we do have quite a few districts or schools that offer optional benefits to households that qualify for free or reduced price meals. But as you all know, the households do have to consent for food service to be able to disclose a child or children's eligibility status to others who are offering the optional benefits, and that consent for disclosure is the process for doing this. It gives the household the opportunity to consent to the disclosure for the optional benefits, and it also gives the household the opportunity to decline disclosure of eligibility for the optional benefits. So before the students can receive these any optional benefit, and the optional benefits vary from district to district, and some districts only offer just one or two, and we've got other districts that offer offer multiple. It ranges from free ACT, the waiver of those fees, to textbooks, I mean, you name it. But the consent for disclosure does have to be received and on file before those optional benefits can be provided to the children. So moving on to the request for online application or to use the online application, any sponsor wishing to use an online free and reduced application must complete and submit to Child Nutrition and Wellness the request to use online application for Child Nutrition Program benefits. And this form is available on caneat.org in Food Service Facts, and this is Chapter 7, where it is located at. And the form is due to KSDE by June 1st, okay? And by signing and submitting the form, the district has assured compliance with USDA Policy Memo 10-2007, and that the online application will not be available before July 1st. It also assures that the district technology and legal departments have reviewed and approved the process, including the use of, have reviewed and approved the process. And one of the things that I do want to remind you here too is this is the form needs to be submitted with the original signature. So just don't forget that. We need the version with the original signature. Don't send us a copy. Okay. Computer and web-based applications. So the letter to household and the application packet for free and reduced price meals can be distributed by email, or it can be made available on the district website. Each year we get lots of questions about whether or not this can be done. Now, households do have to be notified by a non-electronic method on how to obtain a paper copy of the letter to household and application packet. And of course, hard copies must be distributed to those without a valid email address. So wrapping up with just a few miscellaneous reminders. As always, program renewal documents are due in CanClaim by July 15th, 2018, and reimbursement claims for school year 2018-19 cannot be processed until all program renewal documents are approved by KSDE. If we have any RCCIs listening, make sure that you are approved by September 30th, otherwise you will not be able to claim reimbursement for the July meals that are served. And then lastly, make transfers to the Food Service Fund for free adult meals or low paid meal prices before the end of the state fiscal year. And those low paid meal prices would be if you are required to complete the paid lunch equity tool and are required to raise prices, you would need to make that transfer. All right, and that should be done by June 30th. So. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Cheryl, and she's going to pick back up with professional development opportunities.
We are gearing up for lots of opportunities for summer 2018. Child Nutrition Management Academy will be in 4 locations in July, and those classes are filling up fast. In fact, some have already been closed because of the number who have enrolled already. So if you are wanting to attend Child Nutrition Management Academy this summer, I encourage you to get your registrations in as soon as possible. We also are holding Jumpstart for Managers at 3 locations across the state. If you have new managers or if you would like a refresher, these are great 2-day classes. So I would encourage you to consider those. The child nutrition consultants will be teaching calculating components and nutrition standards for school meals at regional locations across the state this summer. If you have a new menu planner or if you need a refresher on menu planning, these are great opportunities. Administrative update is a required class for all sponsors. We are kind of finalizing that right now and trying to make it a little different than last year again, to refresh it and to change some of the activities. We'll also be covering hot topics during the administrative update. So do plan to attend in person at one of the many locations regionally or at the Child Nutrition Management Academy. We also have some food safety basics classes available this summer, and the flyer that shows those dates is available on the training tab on the CanEat website. We also have the 3-hour food safety basics class available online. So if you have new staff starting this summer and want to get them trained on food safety before school starts, that is a great option. We've had people tell us that they've used it for new employees in that way, and then they like them to go to a face-to-face class as well, just so that they can ask questions. Of course, you don't have to do that. We just have multiple ways that you can get food safety training to your new employees. If you are a new director and need the 8-hour class, we do not yet have an 8-hour class online, but the 2-day class at Child Nutrition Management Academy does meet that food safety requirement for new directors. We are working to get our 8-hour class published. It will be in modules, so you can take modules maybe 1 or 2 at a time, or whatever works for your schedule. There is also a class available through the Institute of Child Nutrition that works to satisfy that new director requirement. If you would like to have a trainer come and present in service for back to school or training anytime this summer for your school district, or if you want to get together with several directors and have us come out, please call Cindy Johnson to set up that training. Know that we are still offering those training opportunities at no charge to the school district. Online training is available free of charge 24/7. The address to access the KSDE training portal is very simple. It's learning.ksde.org. You just have to create a free account. You would then click on Child Nutrition and Wellness. You can see that we have 31 classes available now. We've been working hard because we've heard that this is really something that has been beneficial to a lot of school districts. So we're trying to get more and more things available. I do have good news in that the meal modification training is just about ready to publish. So those of you that would like to watch that training, maybe with your school nurse or administrators, in addition to having the food service professionals involved, so you can get the whole team there, that training should be available maybe in the next couple weeks if everything goes well. Here is what the training portal looks like. You just click on any class to begin. Note that we do have the Is This Meal Reimbursable classes up now. Those are some of our latest additions. So if you need to train folks for the next school year on how to identify a reimbursable meal, those are out there. So I think we're to the time when we can answer your question. If we can open the lines, Kelly, I'll have you unmute, or if there are any questions that you want to type in on the chat box, we're all here and we can try to answer those questions for you.
I haven't unmuted everybody, so.
Says, was there, oh, okay, Lynette got that on the June 1st deadline.
Sylvia's asking, are you going to have a class on this?
Which class, Sylvia? Can you tell us on that? Is it the meal modifications, the last thing I was talking about? If you can type in on what we talked about today. We have recorded the webinar and it will be available on the Program Renewal webpage. We have to get it closed captioned, so we've told our communications team that that's a top priority. We're hoping, you know, by the 1st of next week that it will be posted.
online training.
The link for the online training.
Get that.
Can someone, okay, Arlene or Dessel, type that in for you again here. I've found that if you just Google for KSDE online training, the training portal does come up. So, as my mother-in-law says, ask the internet. You know, you can just type that in if you forget the actual address, and it does come up pretty readily.
And it's on the screen now, Yvonne.
And I think, I don't know if Arlene is. Any other questions? You all have the benefit of, we knew what people asked yesterday, so we sure tried to answer those as a part of the presentation. So,
can I mention, I was visiting with someone and we'll say Moodle training, and Moodle is the platform that we use for our online training. Somebody's like, what do you mean by Moodle? And that's online training. So if you hear that, just FYI. I didn't think about that before.
right. We publish in Moodle, that's our online learning platform here at KSDE, but it is just the online learning platform. We actually develop the classes in Adobe Captivate and publish in Moodle.
I think we use Moodle a lot,
Mhm.
and so people are like, Moodle.
It's fun to say.
It's fun to say, it is.
Any other questions that we can help with today? We do thank you all. We really appreciate all you do each and every day. You're all superheroes to us. And we look forward to working with you in the next school year. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.